Okay, let's play Wabbit Wampage. I have a history with this game. I played it once back when I was in undergraduate, first time. And I think a friend of mine had both this and Wabbit's Revenge. I'm not positive. I think we only played Wabbit Wampage. And it was a fun game. Kind of like, reminded me a little bit of Awful Green Things in terms of, except that it's a multiplayer game. But in terms of like, the level of difficulty of the different actions that you're taking. A little bit more silliness to it than Awful Green Things, if that's possible. For example, the character names. We have Bad News Bunny, Thugs Bunny, and I believe this is Dirty Hair. So basically what you are, one player is the farmer. The other three players are going to be bunny wabbits. And like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, they have diametrically opposed goals. Like the rabbits want to eat carrots and the farmer wants to sell them. The farmer likes hunting wabbits and the wabbits don't like being hunted. Anyway, within that, there's still a fairly interesting little point gaining exercise here with a decent amount of strategy and a decent amount of thought that can be applied to the game. My first experience with it, two of the players were agonizing over every decision, and myself and another player were finding that very, very humorous, as well as somewhat disturbing that people would agonize so much over a game like this. But it actually does deserve it as a game. Okay, let's take a look at it. It's hard to tell. So there may be balance issues, but there's certainly no balance issues inherent for the rabbits. I think they probably most likely show up in a two-player game where there's no possibility to try to knock down someone who has a leading advantage. So my hope is the game is fairly balanced, one wabbit, one hunter, or one farmer. It's got an annoying little puzzle board. We got a number of different pieces. So the red pieces here are farmer pieces. They include the farmer, his dog, and his field hand who's sleeping under the tree to begin the game. Each wabbit player has three pieces of his color. One rabbit is a little better than the others. It'll be his main character. Some score markers, game turn track, some equipment lying around. So like there's a chainsaw in the barn, there's a tractor over in the tractor shed, shotgun in the house. There's a bunch of other equipment sitting over here. Some carrots, which you're going to be planting and then storing up for winter. Wabbit holes. There are some already on the board. I'm not sure why they chose to use two different ways to represent them, because these can be destroyed just as these can. A bunch of hunters who come out at fall looking for wabbits. Some little allies, like a duck or a couple of chicken or chipmunks or whatever. Then there's a handful of cards which you're going to use to kind of influence what you control and how you can attack a couple dice. And that's about it. All right. So I've set up the pieces that have to be set up at the beginning of the play. Now we're going to be playing with three rabbit players. Each rabbit basically gets to pick one of these fields with a hole in it, and that'll be his home base for the entirety of the game. And that's kind of that's where he's got to hide his carrots and stuff like that. It's also where he appears after he's been whomped. It's an area-based movement game, but as you can see, the highway gives you the ability to move much more quickly, as does the driveway. The highway is somewhat dangerous, though, as is the duck pond. Most of the other territories, fairly simple, just areas. There are buildings. The buildings have some numbers on them. The number of times it has to be destroyed to be permanent, to be really destroyed, and then the amount of victory points you get for destroying it. Now, normally you can't wreck a building until, I think, winter. Okay. So the objective of the game, and each player starts the game with 3 of these after they do the setup, and I don't know where these suckers go. They go somewhere in fields. I think the farmer gets to drop them off where he wants to put them. So the objective of the game is to gather victory points. And you're going to get victory points for every field that you plow with the tractor. And you'll mark these down as you plow them by throwing a carrot in them. And each field can only be plowed once. And that's going to be 2 victory points during the spring for each player who does that. During the summer, you get points, 2 points for every carrot you manage to pluck out of a field or otherwise obtain and get to your home. Well, not necessarily your home. If you're a rabbit, it's your rabbit home. But if you're the farmer, you have to put them in the barn, which isn't as easy to defend as the rabbit holes are. In the winter, the rabbits get points for destroying buildings. Each building they wreck, that particular rabbit who wrecks it gets that amount of points, and the farmer gets, I believe, half the points of all the unwrecked buildings at the end of the game. You also get a point every time you successfully attack someone, no matter when it is. And during the fall, the farmer is going to get a bunch of hunters who go out helping him hunting rabbits. Each character has a number of pieces of information on them. Up here in the upper right corner is going to be his sort of attack bonus. It's going to be added to his combat capacity, and various weapons also apply to that. Over to the left, you have his defense value, which is the amount you must exceed, or equal, or something like that. We'll get to it. In order to actually successfully harm someone. And then the right hand lower value is the movement allowance for each of the units. Okay, on your turn, what you do is you can throw as many of your cards from your hand as you like, and then you draw back to a 3-card hand. You'll always have a 3-card hand. If you play a card, you immediately get a refreshed card. So there's a reason to kind of cycle through your cards quickly. If you have cards you don't really need, you throw them into the discard pile and you can get new ones. Of course, they'll get reshuffled in at the end. Then you get to move all your pieces, and you move them by their speed. Basically, it costs 1 movement point to move through 1 area. Nothing too complicated there. You're allowed to pretty much carry a thing, either a weapon or a carrot. Weapons are usually these green things, carrots are rather orange. If you have a carrot, you got to drop your weapon. There are a couple of items that are not weapons, though. They're vehicles. So, for example, the tractor, the crane, and I believe the jetpack all are counted as vehicle type items, which you're allowed to have in addition to either a weapon or a carrot. They will give you, they have a combat bonus which you can use as your weapon. So you can try to run someone over with the tractor instead of shooting them or whatever. They have a damage level, which means, well, not all of them, but the 2 big vehicles do, which means, so does the cannon, that they can actually be destroyed. And then they have a multiplier here to the movement, which means any movement points you use while on that vehicle, you receive that multiplier for them. So if you have, all 4 movement points as a rabbit and you're on the tractor, you get to move 8 spaces. Some rules. No more than 1 character in 1 player turn can use an object. So you can't drive the tractor with 1 character, hop off and hop on with another character and keep driving the tractor. But someone else during their turn could end up driving the tractor. Likewise, if somebody uses one of the weapons, nobody else can use that weapon. The pond and the highway are dangerous to move on. You roll 2 dice, and 0s or 10s with these dice. If you roll an 11 or higher when you enter one of these, you're safe. Otherwise, you get squished or drowned or something. There's a few little weird things, like you can try to dump a vehicle or something into the duck pond, and you can jump off it just before it's going to go in, and then it's stuck in there. Somebody can go get it if they want to risk getting in there. After you do your movement, you're allowed to attack immediately after you move a specific character counter. So when you move into a space with an enemy, you can choose to halt your movement and make an attack. And what you do is you roll 2 dice. You add any bonuses that you have from your character weapon. From your character, and you can add 1 weapon or vehicle to the attack value. If you end up exceeding the victim's defense strength, you have a successful attack. And generally a successful attack is a whomp. They drop whatever they have, and they end up going back to their home space. Some things, when whomped, for example, these yellow characters, go off the board permanently. Vehicles and equipment, the things that can be whomped, also go off the board. Now, permanently is kind of a strong term for this. So like if you whomp the duck, he's gone, and there's going to be a duck card that somebody has control of. He'll have to discard that, but the duck could come back. Shotguns are allowed to fire up to 2 spaces away to attack someone. And you can do this as any path of the attacker's choice, but you can't, and that includes like winging a shot through the highway and around. What you can't do though is shoot into or out of a building. The cannon's a little more flexible. It can shoot anywhere on the board it likes. No range limitation. In general, you can play your cards whenever you like. There's different kinds of cards. We can take a quick look at some of them. So this is an attack card. You play it as you're making an attack, and it'll give you an extra. This is an ally. When you play this, it generates that ally, and you can move them on the turn. This is a character zap card. This is played according to the rules. So for example, this says play anytime during your turn. They specify. This is a mail order card. Mail order cards are kind of cool. What you have to do is sometime during your turn, you have to walk through the mailbox. You toss a mail order card down, face down, and it indicates at the beginning of your next turn, that mail order card is going to flip up and that thing will arrive at the mailbox. Now, it's possible to get a special delivery, which is another mail order card, which whatever card it's placed on top of gets delivered to the character of your choice instead. Mail zap, I believe you put this down. Now, you play this out of your hand to blow up the mail. So wild card allows you to dig through the deck. There's a character, the robot, which is a mail order character. He's kind of cool because he shows up at the mailbox, but then you control him. You don't have to actually be around to receive the mail. Okay, what about the special seasons? So springtime. Like I said, you get 2 points for each field that one of your characters plows. In order to plow a field, you have to have the tractor, and you move it into an unplowed field space. You put a carrot in each space that it's plowed. You're not allowed to plow more than 3 spaces in one turn, though. And there are 3 spring turns. You'll just be collecting points as you do the plowing work during them. It's possible for one person to get all, 9 points that are 9 carrots planted, 18 points. It's unlikely in a 4-player game, though. And this is the only bonus points that are available in this season. Then when you get to summer, all the carrots are now edible, and they're all over the place. 1 per field that was plowed, and you can just pick them up. And the goal is at the end of the summer to have them in your home base, or the barn if you're the farmer, and then they're going to be worth 2 victory points each there. Special rule on this guy, you got to go wake him up with one of your characters. I think it may have to be the dog or the farmer that does it. I don't remember. During the fall, there's nothing special in the fall except these farmers, these hunters appear. There's 1 per per character, per rabbit character that's on the board. And they're just an extra guy who's got a shotgun kind of built in. Now, there are cards that allow you to grab a weapon from someone and use it against them. And, well, when you do that with their shotgun, you have to give it back at the end. You know, it's just, you're able to grab it from their hands just for the attack. And then in the winter, you get to destroy buildings. Now, destroying buildings is not trivial. In order to do it, each building has a defense strength of 17, so you have to be able to defeat that, roll higher than that 17. But also, you must hit it a number of times, and that's equal to the multiplier on it. So like the tractor shed, you have to hit it 3 times to get the 6 points. The person who makes that final attack that's successful gets the points. So this is kind of a hard thing for the Wabbits to kind of agree to as to how to score the points on it. Something I forgot to mention, the Wabbit holes and the home spaces for characters give them a +2 defensive benefit. The Wabbit holes, though, only give you a bonus if you're actually in the hole, and only one Wabbit can be in any one hole. Anyway. Once a building's been sufficiently damaged, the proper number of times, that player gets the victory points for that. If the buildings remain undamaged at the end, or undestroyed at the end of the winter, the farmer gets half the points for all the buildings that are undestroyed. So there's a very good incentive for the rabbits to destroy the farmer's buildings. Too many rabbits in the game, and they're going to have to come to some sort of agreement as to how they destroy. Like I said, you get 1 victory point every time you successfully attack. Sometimes, like, you can have a stockpile of carrots under you. Then those carrots can't just be grabbed, even though they're kind of loose, if you're in one of the proper home places. So if you're in the Wabbit hole or if you're in the barn, you can defend the carrots. There's a hydrogen bomb, and that can destroy buildings without any real difficulty. Waking up the hired hand, the farmer or the dog has to end the movement over there to wake him up. The Wabbits can dig a new hole every time they take a move. At the end of their movement, they can drop a new hole in any space on the board except for buildings, highways, and ponds, or where there's already a hole. And the goal of the game is to get the most victory points. Anyway, my wife and I gave this a play. She really loved it. I think she put way too much thought into it, but whatever. And we'll give this a quick shot and give me a little bit of a break from what I've been doing.